Hi, everybody. Welcome to this first episode of Who is on My Pew? This is the podcast we have here at St. Pius Laudenville. Our guest this first time will be Greg Aidala. This is part one of our interview with him. God bless you all, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. We are here doing this first episode for our podcast, Who is on My Pew? We have the pleasure today to have our first guest. Somebody that is very well known in our community is Greg Aidala. Greg, welcome to this new podcast.
Thank you.
It's a blessing to having you here.
Oh, well, it's an honor and a blessing to be here, Father Daniel. Thank you. Thank you to the whole St. Pius community for inviting me in and being part of this whole project. And I think it's who's in my pew, not who's on my pew. But that's pretty funny.
Yeah. It's very good. We always saw a lot of people in church.
Yes.
And that was this idea to know more about, who is in our pews.
Because I do. I like the idea when it came to me to help with the podcast. Father Walsh is always talking about, when you have name tag weekend and who's in my pew and get to know your neighbors sitting next to you. I said, here's a perfect name. And it's and I think it's really inviting, and I'm really looking forward, and I'm excited for the podcast, for the whole St. Pius community and beyond.
Yeah. I truly believe this one will be a wonderful opportunity to all of us to know more each other and to be close to Jesus Christ. That is at the end the goal of all Christian community, and especially St. Pius.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, Greg, you are very well known in this community. Everybody recognize you. When I started talking about the podcast, everybody said the first one must be Greg because everybody knows you here and loves you, and they saw you as a leader for many, many things. But Greg, tell us a little bit about you. Your childhood, how were things?
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for the nice compliment, because it's nice to have you here at St. Pius. You've been a great addition, and you bring a lot.
International addition.
International flavor. Yeah, you do. It's great. It's really good to have you here. My background, growing up Catholic, really stems from a very super close family that I have. I'm one of 8 children. My mother passed away in 1981 of breast cancer. And my father, God love him, is such a great man that he raised all 8 of us on his own. And within faith, after my mother died, every Sunday consisted of church. My father would cook us breakfast, and then we would go to my grandmother's house, his mother's house, for lunch and dinner. And there it was, set in our minds of tradition, a lot of routine to keep us grounded. And as we've grown, and myself personally, to stay grounded in life in general, because, life can get messy and it can come really fast, the first things that we were introduced to with volunteerism was through the church, putting up kneelers or straightening up pews and helping our priest and nun friends who were friends of my parents that we had in our lives that gave us great spiritual guidance that to the day are still in our lives in 2025. And there was no finger wagging. There was always acceptance, humility. We could go to them with questions, concerns, anxiety, anything. And they always, we always had a safe zone with our home. So as I grew up, going through and religious ed and confirmation, and even in high school going to church and bringing friends to church with me, it's and I never impose it. I don't. But I've always felt safe. My home, after my mother died, you have this anxiety in what's going on in the world, right? But my home was always safe. You could always come home to that, and it could all melt away, and you could reset. And that's how I've always felt with church. To the day, and even when I travel, church is really my second home as opposed to my home. It's my first home if you get that, but my second home. Excuse me. But it's always where I feel comfortable. I love the tradition of the Catholic Church. I love that I know what I'm going to get within that hour. Everyone and anyone's welcome to come with me. But I love that quiet away from the hysteria that is planet Earth.
Yeah.
Do you know? And And it's really strengthened me. I've taken that with mission trips through Central America and Puerto Rico. I try to do my best within my hometown community, work with the inner city, work right here with the programs at St. Pius. We have great programs, as you know. I helped start the young adult group. I've been a core team leader for 4 years with That Man Is You. And the men and women of this parish and the school and the children are so inspiring. And as perfectly imperfect as we are, it works here. And I truly think St. Pius is a real beacon to the diocese, and we can continue to help for a long time to come.
Yeah, that was my feeling when I just moved here, because I was nervous before, but I found like St. Pius is always welcoming. It's always about, we're here for you.
Yeah.
We have something for you. It's like I always open the masses, most of the times, and that this is a spiritual home for everybody else. Everybody has something here to do. But Greg, you mentioned something very important. Like you grew up with traditions at home, being without mom. Do you have like a nice memory that you want to share with us about your childhood in the church? Being in church as a kid.
Yeah, we were, my father would cart us, all 8 of us, every week. And it's funny because I love this I love this whole idea of the podcast, and I love the whole name of Who's in My Pew, because there was 9 of us with my dad, right? I'll say kids at 9. And the church here in the area was so helpful to my dad. And you got to remember, as you know, and this is 1981 when this happened, so there's no social media, there's not this influence, there's not so much therapy and all of those outlets of sort, but the community really rose. And it's so much so that the greatest memories I have are the people that would reach out. And sometimes you can't fully understand what's happening. Like, I was 7 years old, right? So it's, and you can't articulate, the help that you're getting. But I just saw people do it with such ease and being so automatic. So I've never forgotten that. And I think that with what I saw growing up, it comes very easy to me. I'm very open, and I listen first. And there was a lot of that in my life growing up. People were taking a knee to me and listen. And in turn, I do that now. And it's very important to me. What I'm part of here at St. Pius, even being a lector for many years, is it's an honor. Like, I'm really honored when I'm asked to, be part of, regular mass throughout, or even the special masses. I have a nice one coming up. They asked me to, read at the Chrism Mass in April.
That's awesome.
And I got that call from Deacon Marty, and I'm truly honored. So this comes very easy to me, if that makes sense. And I really take it to heart, because my last name is spelled Aidala. And the genesis of that is to aid, AID, is to help. And, my name, Gregory, the genesis, is the watcher. I really take that to heart. We were named after saints. And Pope Gregory. So it's very easy for me.
Very important Pope. That's why we have Gregorian music.
That's right. I love the
church.
chants. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And for those who have no idea, the Chrism Mass is the Mass that the bishop used to bless all the oils that we use to do the sacraments. The oil to do the baptism, confirmation, ordination, anointing of the sick. That's a very special Mass. It takes place, 3 weeks or 4 weeks before Holy Week sometimes, or it change. It's not like a rule to do that Mass, but it must be sometimes before, Holy Week.
Yeah. You know what else too about the church that was really nice? The donuts.
We always have donuts,
right? But that was what I mean by that is really the everyone prays together, but then there's also this, I don't want to say recreation time, but sort of a relaxed time to when you mingle in hot chocolate or coffee or donuts, and it's just and then I remember that specifically, and those types of meeting with people after church. And then St. Pius now just takes it to such a new level. And that's why I am so honored and willing to give a lot of my time to this parish, 100%. Because I get so much back. I mean, there's so much goodness here,
That's good. Good to hear, man. Good to hear that we are doing good here. With,
sure.
With social life, because I truly believe that's what some churches they need to do more, like helping the people to be connected. That's the way. The Eucharist, of course, the perfect sacrifice keep us together, but having social time to share their lives, it's also important to know each other.
It is, because we're all human,
And I think that's what keeps us together.
100%. Yeah.
Greg.
Yes.
Teenager time.
Yeah.
Your life as a teenager. How was that?
Oh boy. Well, that was. I've always I play 3 instruments, so I'm always involved in music. So I loved, and that was grounding, and still is. I still play. So with all this, like this is how I describe it in talks. Like when my mother died, it felt like on the inside, like someone just hit a beehive with a bat, right? So it's just scattered, and all this stuff bubbles up. And I had this really going on the inside, a good majority of my life. But on the outside, it was calm and cool. I just knew how to I was learning, rather, tools on how to come back to base. And base, does that make sense? So that base was always my home, and also home with church. So and I also played sports. I played a handful of sports. So they were fun. There was always, say, in those teenage years and say high school and stuff, and, everyone goes to parties and whatnot. And I always went to church, before, or obviously the next day. So I had very fun, really great memories of teenage years in high school and all that. In fact, last year, a real big honor in my adult life is I got inducted into my high school's Hall of Fame.
Very nice.
Yeah, I was very, very, very honored by that. It was a huge to-do at the arena in downtown Albany, and I got to walk in with the class and give a speech. And it was, and a lot of what they based that on when I was nominated was my community work and what I've done. And I'm not the type of person to hang my hat on that. Like a lot of people come into my office and they'll say, where's that famous person that you met? Or where are those awards and this, that? And I don't hang them up. I appreciate them, but they're all in a box, and stored away. Because when I hit a goal, I'm ready for the next goal. That's not to say I celebrate small victories, which I encourage people to do. I think it's important. But I'm always ready to move on and lend, either be a mentor or something or be a mentee, someone that's going to give me advice if I'm seeking it, and to be there for other people. So my teenagers were super fun. My friends that I grew up with, I have a handful of childhood friends that we scattered throughout the U.S., and we still talk once a week.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's based on, because my father talks to all 8 of us kids every day. So there's this big sense of connection, community, family, love, support in the ups and downs, highs and lows, all of that. And I just feel that is so sacred to me, by the way. It's very sacred. And that coupled with, I'll give you an example. When my mother died, our father brought us together and said, we'll get through this with 3 things. And it's love, teamwork, and humor. And I still espouse that to the day. I live by that. I think it's super important. I've never been a fan of religion with finger wagging and forcefulness. And thank the Lord, I've never been around that. So I'm very thankful to that, because I'm all about tradition. But I really admire priests and nuns that instead of forcing, will listen first. And that's just huge for me. And it's made me a better person in that realm through Christ and the church, to listen first, and then speak when needed. So all of that, I know it's a long answer. My high school years and teenage years were great.
But we love it.
Well, I appreciate that. They were also On the inside, though, there was also confusing times, right? Because my mother dies when I'm 7. I have to deal with that, and I'm learning to process that. Then your teenage years, everybody here, they're awkward.
Of course.
So you're going through that, and I have this on my head. And then college, it's the same thing. Excuse me. What really started for me to really start to settle and find a groove was in my, I'd say like 24, 25. And then I started in my industry when I was 27. And we grew up with a family business, so which we still have. It's 82 years old this year. It's in Albany, Quail Auto Sales. So that was like a third base. My grandfather was from Sicily, and we have this great European-American upbringing, learning to respect, knowing what this country offers, not to take things for granted, and it humbles you. Yeah. We're not greedy people. And this world has become a very fast left click fix everything. And I think when people get caught in that trap, that's very harmful. And that harm starts from the inside. In other words, I think it starts from the outside. And then it's like in the readings, right? Like, to defile, right? It comes from the inside, it's not the outside. So I think to find that balance and understand it truly, it is something that I aspire to do every day, because I'm fallible, and I'm aware of that. So I think that, and once I found that hook of sort of, I'm okay, the Lord needs me in certain places, man, the world just opens up, and it's nothing but love and light.
Yeah.
In very dark times. I mean, the world is dark and cold. It's not all cotton candies and rainbows. Mm-hmm. But I'm a huge proponent of the champion of the human spirit. And when you're locked in and you can find something that makes you feel great, no matter what it is, if an accomplishment in work or family life or a hobby, anything of that nature, and it takes you to this paramount, this pinnacle within yourself, retain that feeling and put it into everything you do, even down to tying your shoes. Because I think that's when you find a true balance. And when you keep God and the Lord in that center, as you know, all things fall into place.
Yeah, I truly believe that's the only way. It's like understanding Jesus Christ is trying to put Him in every single thing. And for every day, put Jesus there, because He wants to do something on your life. And when you start looking around you with, I always use this expression, maybe in English doesn't make sense, but it's see the reality with the eyes of Jesus Christ. That's something that we say in Spanish.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When you put God inside of you and you start looking everything in a positive way, because you understand that problems are not just problems, are opportunities to pray more.
Yeah.
And of course, chances to change if we have to. Greg, a moment from your teenager time that you said, this is a moment that I can see Jesus Christ was doing something on my life, in a specific moment as a teenager.
A specific moment.
Did you see Jesus? Of course, He's doing always something, but a moment that you said, like, that was a God's moment. In my life.
Okay. So it was ninth grade. I think it was ninth grade. I was ninth grade, and I was like a late bloomer, so I was like small, and for English, for one English class, we had to write, and that's when I always written. I've been published, as a published poet as well with the Library of Congress in D.C., and that was and I still have it. And I wrote this poem. Actually, I appreciate the question, because I don't think I ever would have thought of it in this way. So I appreciate the question. The poem is "The Hill Where the Lord Hides," and it was based on a dream that I had, and I still have it in the form of written down before I typed it. I still have it, and I was dreaming, and it was a suffering dream of sort, because I was still, I guess, it didn't know, because I didn't know how to articulate, but grieving of sort and coming to terms with everything. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and writing it all down. And it was basically the overview is, where I was in life, I could always go to this hilltop, not even really knowing the full scope of Christ and hills and Mount Olive, all of those things, right? But I could go there, and I did, and I prayed, and that was my assignment that I turned in. Yeah, and I remember my teacher was very impressed with that. I'd have to go back. You know what? I have all this stuff. I saved certain things in life that I know. My writings that I started, when I was a teenager. So that was that big moment that I knew there was something that I could learn to articulate that was way bigger than me, way bigger than all of us. And at first it was frightening, right? Because I was frightened. I was like, what in the heck is happening here? I felt powerless. I felt unworthy of everything. I felt the weight of, well, if I'm born a sinner, how in the heck do I get out of this? What do I do? And this outlet, because my mother, my father's a Siena grad, so my father's an accountant for the business. My mother went to a business school in Albany, and so they were both into math and numbers. But my mother on the side was a painter and a writer, loved Broadway plays. So it's like I'm split. I'm completely split of my parents, And then once I found that outlet, I never let it go. And that was really a healing power for me, because those words are coming from above. People ask me in my talks, my motivational talks, any type of life coaching that I'm doing, and like, where are you getting these words and this inspiration? I go, I'm just a vessel. Yeah. I am merely just a vessel. I'm far from perfect. But I'm very conscious of what I write and what I say. Have I blown my top in the past? Absolutely. Right? I've done it.
This is not about perfection.
It's not. But I get, I'm human, and it's never. I'm always. When that happens, right? That agitation, it's always coming from within. There's something unsettled within myself. It's not about anybody else. If anybody's in that space around me, I am the first person to say, I'm sorry. That is all on me, nothing to do with you. And I've been very blessed to have very forgiving people around me when that Sicilian Irish blood.
I understand about that.
When it bubbles up.
Yep.
But I'm very conscious to take a beat, and to, because I don't want to hurt anybody or make them feel uncomfortable, because I've been on both sides of that fence. I think most people have,
all of us,
right? And then humility. I'm a huge fan of humility, and no one's ever mastered it, and no one ever will master humility, in my opinion. But if you can keep that in mind, humility, with every step on your path, you become a better person. I truly feel that way. I do. So that was that big moment. And what I'm explaining here was, that answers your question. That's exactly what I felt at that moment when I woke up and then wrote that. And it's just, it's something that I can go to, even in my mind. There's always a hill in my mind where I can go and get away, pray, and shut the world off and reset.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the reason why I'm asking you that is because I'm guessing as Christian people, we have a short memory. Like, we don't keep in mind all the moments that Jesus Christ or God, Jesus, did something in our lives. We're always like expecting God to do something more. Tell me more, God, do more. Yeah. The day's for me. I need this. But, it's always good to stop and say, okay, until this point of my life, what Jesus Christ did in the past.
Yeah.
To guide me through my life here, like he's always doing something, and those, especially the teenager times that are hard for all of us, because we're in the middle of everything. I never hear people speaking about their God's memory of doing something in their lives in that particular time.
Yeah. And to that point is, I think we're in 2025. I think this is like 3 years ago. I was driving around, and it was, and I brought this into, I was so excited. I read this sign, and it was on a church. I can't recall the church. It was outside of this area, in the capital region, but I can't remember whereabouts exactly. And I brought it into my That Man Is You group, And I said, guys, you got to listen to this sign. And to that point, and it stuck with me, and it hit me like a thunderbolt. And the sign on the church just said this: maybe God is looking for a sign from you. And it hit me. And it just like went right to my heart. I was like, there it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's why
It got me real emotional when I read that. It still does.
Yeah, it's because we are like sometimes we are very indifferent with that. And it happens to me before, and I'm sure in another podcast we will talk about my spiritual journey. But
I'd love to learn more about you. I think the whole community wants to learn more about you. We'll reverse roles someday because it's great. You're a great young man, and you add great value.
Learning how to be a good priest.
We're all learning.
Yeah, but the thing is, it is hard. Sometimes we're just expecting God to do things. Like, oh, He knows me. He will take care. And we're like just waiting. Sometimes even indifferent about that. Yeah. That's what I always said. We have to be intentional in our prayer. We have to make sure to say, Jesus Christ, this is what I need.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with this particular situation, and I need you this in this situation. He has the power to do whatever he wants. Of course, he knows our hearts. He knows everything about all of us. But we have to be intentional with that, because this is not an invasive God.
Right.
It's Jesus Christ. The logic of Jesus is different. It's
yeah.
more like, put your heart there. I'm there. Put your heart, and we will work with your heart and my heart together to resolve these situations. I don't know if that makes sense in English, but...
No, it does. ¿Cómo se dice en español then?
Corazón con corazón. Heart to heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So to that, though, I think that it's a really good point, because we just assume, God knows us, we're going to live, we were born, we're confirmed, blessed, whatever, and then we're going to live, and we're going to be judged one day, and let him filter it out. That's not how it works.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not. I'll give you some. I'll share this with the community, and people who know me know this. I'm literally praying all the time, like all the time, and so here I used to carry. I grew up at church. I was 8 or 9, and I got my first rosary. I still go to bed with that same rosary.
Awesome.
Okay? I used to carry that rosary with me. Now at St. Pius, as we have, the wooden chips, you make sure they're blessed, right? And I always carry that with me. When life, especially if I'm giving a talk or something of that nature, and you're talking, a couple, 300 people, and I'm used to that, which I'm fine with. But there's always this moment right before I'm on. It's a little like, ooh, right? You're like, I got to stay like grounded, and here we go. People who know me, they'll know that I just touched that, and it settles me right down. It's wild. It's so crazy.
It's a wonderful practice. Thanks for sharing this with us.
Sure, yeah.
I'm sure that will be helpful for somebody else in our community too.
I hope so, because I know that there's so many people out there that I've learned about what they do, to center and ground them again. And it's those things to where, and like for instance, so I'm 50, right? So when it was the fall of like 2023, I think it was. I was 48, and I had some bubbling up stuff coming up that I wanted to work on. To when I got to 50, I'm going to reconcile, forgive, and do the hardest thing that I've ever had to work on was forgive myself. So I wanted to reconcile my past and myself. So when I got to 50, it was a new start into my second act, the next chapter, where right, wrong, and different, I can forgive, be forgiven, and move on. And the hardest thing, I've gone over this with Father Walsh, and you and I have discussed this, and Deacon Marty. The hardest thing for me to do as a Catholic is to leave my stuff at the foot of the Lord. It's really hard for me to do that because I feel selfish. This guy did enough for me. It's up to me. And I keep I was encouraged to leave it. And I started to do it. And I was encouraged by one of my friends, Dan Jason, who attends here, and Deacon Marty, and Father Walsh as well, they said, come to daily mass. And I did. So that year, that fall, I went to daily mass every day for Advent. And I shared this with people within the church. And when I went into daily mass, and there was so much stuff bubbling up because I was ready to forgive and let go and really let God, that old adage, I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a shot. When I started to come to daily mass, my hands were clenched so hard and I was shaking in the pew. Obviously daily mass, it's not a full mass. So I'm always sitting where, where I sit. So it's like, it's just, I'm and then as I was there, and it's daily mass, I encourage everyone to at least try it. It's a whole different scenario.
Different, yep.
Way different. You're way more in tune. You can really, in my opinion, you can listen more. And the more I went every single day, that grip loosened up and it just stopped. And literally, as I am now, I'm completely relaxed. I said, well, this is where I need to be even more. So from weekly mass went to daily. And if I can't make it, the great thing about St. Pius and other churches around the country and the world is watching online. Okay. I watch daily mass from St. Pius every single day if I can't make it. It's what I need. It grounds me. And it's something that I'll tell you, I am not letting go of. Mm-hmm. When I get a hold of something, I'm in, and I'm in 100%.
Yeah. I know people in the church, sometimes they said to me like, Father, why you in the church just keep doing the weekend masses? We don't need the daily masses.
Who said that? Excommunicate them.
Yeah. I'm like, that's not the tradition of the church.
Right.
But sometimes they said like, Father, we have churches around. They don't have the numbers we have, and daily mass is 1, 2, 3 people there, and like why just Saturday and Sunday, as some of the other Christian denomination churches do their services. Mm-hmm. And he says, we cannot do that because the Eucharist, the celebration of the Mass, is a moment to pause everything in our day-to-day activities to say, Jesus Christ, thank you. I need your peace. Mm-hmm. And that's wonderful that you said that, because that's exactly what I think we have. We need the daily Mass. Because it's in a space to be connected with the Lord, and even for ourselves is in a spiritual break of everything, just to be seated there and say, Lord, I need you in my life. And that's why, because believe it or not, many people ask me, a lot of people ask me about, why daily Mass. And it's not about a duty. It's not just something that you must do because you are Catholic. Yeah. It's a wonderful practice, for our spiritual health.
Let me ask you something. The people that ask about why daily Mass, do they attend?
Most of the time, no.
Well, see, that's my question. Right? Like, that's my point of being like, well, if you I'm a very inquisitive person, right? Mm-hmm. So if I had questioned that, I would go and show up and see what it's like and get a feeling, and then you can decide within yourself, well, that does fit for me or it doesn't fit for me. And I think also that's one concern with Catholicism is there are people out there, right? Let's just be honest, that think their way of praying, showing up, being involved is the only way. Mm-hmm. And then if that is interrupted in some way, they'll be PO'd at somebody or just ostracize them in some way. And because being involved in parishes, people come to me and talk to me, and I, if they're afraid to advance to someone else, and I said, look, at St. Pius here, Father Walsh especially, and Father Daniel, they will sit and talk with you. It's okay to approach them. This is what community is about. We're adults, and we're human. It's okay. What I also espouse is this. If someone has maybe perhaps slighted you in some way, okay, I understand that. Digest it and take it in. But if you're showing up every week and you're also going to be PO'd at somebody because they're not thinking or doing something your way, then you are a hypocrite. Because what I always say is this: if they have peed you off in some way, forgive them.
Yep.
Put your faith into practice and forgive them. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we all know that doesn't mean you have to forget. No. But at least if you forgive, you're giving that away. And you can settle that strife within. It's a beautiful approach.
It's about peace.
100%. It is all about, it is about peace. And don't let anyone ever interrupt your peace. I've had my peace interrupted the past week numerous times, and it started from the outside and then from the inside. And then
I'm always with these Spanish sayings that maybe it doesn't make any sense in English, but I have a bishop friend in Colombia, Bishop Mauricio. He used to be my pastor, and then he became the bishop. Wonderful priest. He transformed, everybody else life. Just a wonderful pastor, pretty much like Father Walsh. And he always said, Daniel, at the end, we are the guardians of our peace. He always said that. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yes,
what it means is, you are in charge of your own peace.
That's right.
And that's a treasure you receive from heaven. And, it's your duty to keep that peace on you. Don't allow anybody else or nothing to steal that peace from your heart.
Yeah. I have to remind myself of that every day. And you are a guardian of your peace. It's a great way. It's and that you can juxtapose with, you can only control what you can control. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, 9% of the time in life, you can control your reaction to something. Yeah. So it's very important to take that beat and take that moment and to guard your peace, because there are people and the devil and all those things that are going to work through you to try to break that. I'll tell you something right now. It's all about authenticity with me. I'm very authentic. I'm fallible, but I'm very authentic. Mm-hmm. And I have such a force around me because of how I was raised and what I've chosen to study and look into with my journey, that it's really hard for someone to penetrate me. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to get through that field. Does it happen? Sure, it happens. I'm human. It happens. But I have to learn, when in that moment, to take a beat and how am I going to react to it? But I know, look, this is the way I look at it. Christ went through so much for us, okay? He couldn't please all the people all the time. And he said, if people won't listen or be open, to shake the dust off and walk on.
Yep. Well,
and walk on. So if he, as God in human form, if that horrible society, what they did to that man, and what he did for us, then there should be really nothing that we can't do to celebrate what he did for the world and the futures. I truly believe that from the depth of my heart. And it's empowering, and it's freeing too. Knowing that, look, 2,000 years ago, the world, look at the newspapers today. They're fighting over the same stuff. Nothing's really changed. The base hasn't changed.
Yeah.
It's all this static over here and noise. But if you come back to base, like we were talking about, that home, and usually at that home, and it's clarity. There's clarity at the base. And with the Bible, sometimes, myself included, we're failing an open book test. Yep. The answers are right there. Clear base. Now, it's all imperfect. There was men that wrote it and strong women behind those men.
Of course.
And I think to myself, even to become more in tune with it, has been such a joyous resource that is endless. And you can continue to find depth within it, juxtaposed with great orators like Father Walsh, yourself, my priest friends. Even when I travel the country, there are some very bad orators out there, and which is normal, and that's okay. God bless them, and their heart. But I say that in jest, in the way of I know where their heart lies. But we're very blessed to hear. That's why I'm a big fan of. I think what's turned people off with a lot of Catholic religion over the years, and why they went to non-denominational, is because they were tired of finger wagging. Mm-hmm. A lot of priests were heavy-handed. It's the history of it.
Sorry, people. We're St. Pius. It's not how we are.
It's not. St. Pius is so not that way. And here's the difference. And all I've ever asked for, because I grew up with priests this way, just use your real life experience in these talks. That's all people, the world is screaming for authenticity, screaming for it. Be it and live it. And that will come back tenfold. And you'll see that flock will grow. And when that flock grows, that flock becomes more empowered within themselves to be here, to learn more of people who are in their pew, and then to take that back to their family. Because within those four walls of a family home, as imperfectly perfect as it is, it's where it all starts.
Yeah. Hey everybody, thanks for listening and watching this brand new podcast here at Senpai's the 10 with Greg Aidala. Stay tuned for the second part. He's going to talk about different challenges to be a Catholic in today's world. Stay tuned. The second part will be awesome.